Rush Hour Podcast. Welcome back. Took a little break last week, but we've got a lot of news this week. We've got Meta's new model, which maybe it's the best one yet for them. At least the first time they've done this. How does that work? We've got Anthropic with this cybersecurity tool. I'm excited to hear what we have there, and then let's talk Claude skills. Like I know you've been working on it. You're going to give us a
Yeah.
how you've used it, what it works. But let's start. Let's start with Meta. What's the latest on them?
Yeah. So, Meta has spent 100 billion on AI, but they still haven't quite figured out how to make money from it yet. But that may change now with the release of their new Muse Spark model. So this is the first AI model that they've released since restructuring their AI org under Alexander Wang. And everybody's, been throwing a fair amount of shade at Meta saying, hey, you spent all this money. Let's get it together. What's up with these models? The last Llama release didn't really go well. And so they had a model that was codenamed Avocado, but it actually came out a few days ago. And this new model is Muse Spark. It's called Muse Spark. And basically, the biggest shift right now is that the Llama model was an open source model. They're they're transitioning over to their own proprietary model with Muse Spark, and the company will eventually charge for API access, following the playbook of competitors like OpenAI and Anthropic. But this is the first model they've released in some time where it's actually hit meaningful benchmarks. If you kind of look at the benchmarks across text and image to text to image and image to video, et cetera, where they have a fair amount of data based off of reels and stories and what they've been able to capture in their systems. And so Meta's pretty late to the AI monetization game, but what they have been dominating, with basically their competitors dominating developer ecosystem and enterprise ecosystem with, OpenAI and Anthropic really leading there. But their real advantage is in developers. It's the 3 billion users that they have across Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, and being able to use this new state-of-the-art model to improve their core ads business. I think that's where we're going to see the biggest leverage from this new model. And I think the takeaway is one that Zuck is back in the game. He has a model that they can build upon. It's actually puts them up into the top 4 or 5 models that are out there now. And if they can get the right flywheel of better performant model, which means more marketers are spending dollars in the Meta ads ecosystem, creating better outcomes for themselves and for clients who are doing the buying, and then that feeds back into the flywheel, then you can actually see some meaningful revenue impact on the business finally for some of these bets. So I guess TLDR is they have a new state of the art model out there. People seem to think it's actually quite strong relative to what they launched in the past. And then the ads piece is, I think, where they're going to get the biggest leverage for now. But yeah, I don't know if you saw this article, but any thoughts on kind of like where they are in the race or implications?
My thought was I need to try it. So next week we'll try it, we'll use it, and we'll come back and give a review because I think that's the only right way to do it. Like, you always hear about these things and you go use it and it doesn't live up to whatever it is. So more to come on that. Well, make sure you like, subscribe below. We're gonna review it and we'll get back to you with how it actually performs in everyday use. So look out for that. And I'm excited to always try these things. It's always like everybody levels up their game every release. So I'm excited to see where this takes us. The next one is Anthropic. What have you heard about this security?
Yeah. So this is kind of crazy. Anthropic has created an AI model that is so powerful they won't let you use it, or at least not yet. So they're limiting access to their new Mythos model because it's basically very highly capable of finding software vulnerabilities. So think of the best dreamscape for any type of hacker that's out there. They basically have created a product that allows for that is only where only the most capable hackers in the world have better capabilities. But instead of doing a public release like what they typically do, it's only being shared with large enterprises. So I think AWS has access, JP Morgan, a few other companies where they have very critical infrastructure. And the reason why they're launched, at least the narrative of why they say they're launching it this way, is to prevent bad actors from using the AI to exploit systems at scale. But it does lead to some real conversations around why they're restricting top tier models to only a small cohort, like how this works in terms of how regular folks like you and I will get access to models down the time as they get more and more powerful. And how is it that they can make the determinants around that as opposed to the government or some type of regulation or something else? Also, should we be creating crazy models like this that can just hack into everything? Like, think about deepfakes, think about all the people who have been impacted by just the current landscape of AI and the tools and capabilities, and to imagine that it's going to get exponentially more powerful is a little harrowing. At least to me, being a non-technical person and not truly understanding how powerful all these things are. But I was most struck by the fact that it was like, hey, we're going to release this to a small cohort of people just to make sure it's safe, and they're going to determine whether it's safe or not. And then I guess we'll distribute it to everyone else. It seems like I wonder if that's going to be the new play of how these companies release
Yeah,
models.
it seems like with security, it does seem like they need to be more careful, right? Getting it into the wrong hands and having somebody poke holes in the thing that's supposed to catch the bad actors feels like, yeah, we got to be real careful with how you release. I don't even know why you announce something like this, but
Right? It's like,
right, like I don't get it, but we'll see. Maybe
yeah,
that this feels like whack a mole. It's going to be fix this, release that. They break into that, fix that. Yeah, getting it into the wrong hands is not probably not ideal.
yeah, that. And I feel like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like now every other day I'm getting an email from some company that's saying your your data has been breached, and it's all, I'm almost numb to it now. I really shouldn't be, because one day I'm gonna look up and some account's gonna get drained or something insane. I mean, I'm knocking on wood that that doesn't happen, but it seems increasingly more likely. And then it's like, okay, well, we're releasing even more powerful models so that nefarious actors could potentially get access to these and make it even more whack-a-mole-ish. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if I signed up for that part.
Yeah, it's a little I mean, that's kinda what you figured, right? When this gets in the hands of the wrong people, it's gonna be really scary. So, yeah, I'm with you. I get all these, data breach, and I don't even know what to think anymore. At this point, everything is public, right? There's almost no PII, so you just gotta be real careful. I lock down everything. So, like, in terms of credit line report, I
Yes.
lock
I
it
just
all
started
up.
doing that.
So, hopefully that helps. I don't even know if that helps because somebody
Yeah,
could hack into that for all I know. So,
I know. But along those lines, shout out Mom Dukes, because she was like, "Hey, you got to start locking down these credit reports." And she's always saying, "Hey, you should do this and that." But I think she was really on point. Mom, if you're watching this, everybody's got to have their mom watch the podcast. I followed through, so we should be safer there.
yeah, for sure. Like that's a huge, lock up your credit. Don't let somebody open a new line of credit without your knowledge. So having that locked is always a nice option for everybody. I'd highly recommend. Obviously, we're not financial advisors, but it seems like a no brainer. Yes, a little bit more of a pain if you do. If you're at Macy's and you want a new credit card, you got to do some extra work, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, lock down your accounts. These models are getting more powerful than ever, and the security systems, or at least like the protocols that you have to have as an individual, will become, yeah, to be even more stringent there. So
And then
take
the
care.
last one, I want to hear how are you using Claude and its skills? Like, walk us through. For a non-technical person, what's the deal?
Okay, so if you spend any time watching the podcast, I spent a fair amount of time on like LinkedIn and talking about things that I'm doing, and also looking at other folks who are using these tools. And the best way to kind of understand how they work, especially if you're non-technical, is to try to use them and add them into your workflows. So I've recently started to build out more Claude skills. Some of you may have heard of this term, like, what the heck is this Claude skill thing? How does it work? How do I use it within the system? So hopefully I'll walk through that a bit, and that will make it, at least at a higher level, you understand what it does and then how it may be able to help you in your workflow. So a skill is essentially a packaged set of instructions that teaches the AI how to execute a workflow consistently. So think of it as like, instead of having to re-explain yourself every time you do a prompt, or it helps you to codify your thinking into repeatable systems on demand. So it's like, hey, I'm writing something, Claude. Okay, take this skill on writing, and then it creates repeatable workflows. So under the hood, a skill is simply an instruction file instead of a .md file. But you can basically just go into Claude, press a little plus button in the text box. You'll have an opportunity to create a new skill. In the skill, it has instructions that you put in, which is basically like, hey, this is a strategy. This is how you use this skill. References, you can put your playbooks in there, and then any type of like automated hooks. So basically, you pick like 2 to 3 things, I would say, to start that you do. Let's say you're writing a fair amount, or in my case, like you're doing a GTM plan, et cetera. It is like a specific way that you want that to be formatted and thought through. Basically, create a Claude skill around that, and it allows you to basically pull from that skill in that .md file um, every time you're taking that specific action. So one of the things that I've used it for is like writing refinement. So how do I make sure that I'm using the best writing style, tone, and structure? And I've had the Claude skill take it based off of inputs on my LinkedIn content, other writing that I've done to narrow it down into this format. And so now every time I do an email or a longer Slack message or I've written a LinkedIn post, I want to clean it up, etc., I'll say, hey, use Justin's writing skill to to clean this up or to create the first version of that based off of the instructions that I provided. And the result is that I get more consistently writing in my voice with sharper hooks, a cleaner structure, and it's just made my life a lot easier than say, oh, okay, every time I go into a new conversation, this is how I want to think about it and write through these things. It's now embedded into Claude's memory, and it just creates a more seamless experience of me doing my writing. So that's been super helpful. That's like, you know, the one of really using skills to the most of their capability. But if you're thinking like, what is something that I can do today to better help me? I think that's one that is relatively easy to set up, and it's definitely been valuable for me.
I love it. In ChatGPT, you can prompt to say, put in things into projects, and then make sure you save certain things into its memory for you, so that I can remember them across threads. Otherwise, you need to keep your thread active. That is a simple hack. But yeah, I love that. Maybe I'll try to take screenshots and put it on screen for us in the post edit so people can see what we're talking about. But no, that's awesome, man. I love that. So next week we'll do the review of the Meta AI, and then if there's anything else anyone wants for us to take a look at, ping below and we'll play around with it. And any other updates on your end?
No, man, short and sweet episode. We're always trying to add as much value as possible and trying this new format where we're talking about the news, but then also how are we using these tools? Because ultimately, we got in some great feedback that's helpful for folks as they're
Yeah, yeah.
navigating all this craziness that's out there. So let us know if there's anything else you want us to talk about. Otherwise, we'll probably continue doing this
Yep. Until next week. Appreciate you, Justin.
next week, sir.